Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Tuesday, the 10th of December 2024. And these are the stories that we will be highlighting in the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with India, its policies vis-a-vis terrorism, desecration of mosques, tourism and tourists that are not safe, and there have been a lot of reports as far as what is happening to tourists in India is also concerned, and of course the pledge by different organizations also to highlight to the entire world what India is being up to and how it is not a safe country. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns climate change, what came out of COP29, and also a very important decision that is going to be played out at the International Court of Justice. It has been playing out since last week, but also last week and this week will be important as around 100 countries have gone to the ICJ regarding climate change. Also, the government has introduced the country's first carbon market policy, which we will also be discussing as part of this very segment. So without any further ado, let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns, of course, the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir region, the desecration of mosques that has been happening, the tourists that do not feel safe in the country, and of course this is resolved by different organizations to highlight to the world, to apply the pressure to India in order to make the communities in India safe. We've been talking about this many times, whether it be in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir region, whether it be in India as well. To discuss more on that, we've been joined by Maheen Shafeeq, who is a foreign affairs expert, and she's right here with us in the studios. Maheen, thank you very much to have joined us. Maheen, the All-Parties Conference calls upon peace-loving and democratic countries such as the European Union or the OIC to come up with a collective policy which is endorsed by all the member countries of those organizations to conduct a political and economic boycott of Hindutva BJP-ruled India due to its continued disastrous policies against minorities. And of course, minorities includes Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Dalits, and in India and in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Will such a plea have any effect?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. We have seen that since BJP came in power, RSS and its Hindutva ideology is being spoken about widely. There are concerns that are being raised by different countries, including OIC, United Kingdom, United States. All of these countries are raising concerns. So there is a realization that the Hindutva ideology and then Hindutva project is actually having a major impact on the communities within India, especially the minority communities. We have seen that various other reports have come up regarding the Hindutva ideology, and especially there are specific institutions who are working on India and South Asia who are looking into RSS Hindutva ideology and then also what the BJP is trying to project. They state that this is the Indian state, that Indian analysts have stated that this is the rejuvenation of the Indian society. Now that they're realizing that Hindus are different and Muslims are different, how it was during the independence time. We fail to see any progress in regards to India being pressured, although several countries are highlighting it, but so far India is not budged. There are communities who are violating several rights of minorities. We have seen a rise in demolition of mosques, not only places of worship, but also communal rights, and then people do not feel safe in the country.
Well, before I come to the mosque, there are so many other things that need to be talked about. And the first is this policy that the organizations are asking for EU to OIC to adopt vis-a-vis India. Why hasn't there been, since so many decades and so many years, that we are seeing a degradation within India, degradation within the Indian legally occupied Jammu and Kashmir as far as basic human rights are concerned? Why hasn't there been a collective implementable policy as of yet?
Prior to 1990s, India's position was not as strong. So after 1990s, we have seen India rise economically, and that has strengthened its position, its standing. And now with the BJP government pursuing its agendas, the position of India has hardened on all of these aspects. The economic strength that it's playing on is basically, and also the diplomatic support that it is gaining, especially with regards to the Indo-Pacific construct within US policies. That is what has empowered India to adopt these postures. And due to this, India has been disregarding all of the calls that are being pursued from Canada as well as from the US, and India has failed to act upon any of these concerns that have been raised by the US.
All right, Maheen, an American magazine, Sophist, in 2022, this is 2 years back, but since then we've had so many reports and we've discussed those as well, as far as, the way the human rights are not even being, adhered to as far as the minorities are concerned in India and in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, but therein, of course, Muslims are in a majority. It names India as the second most dangerous country in the world for tourists. Sophist, this magazine, way back in 2022, said that attacks and harassment of tourists had become commonplace in India. Violence against minorities and religious extremism are on the rise. Now, when you talk of tourism, it means foreigners that come to India. Why is the world silent as far as this is concerned?
Like you have pointed out, there are so many reports, so many concerns, and people have shared their personal stories on social media that have gone viral regarding India being not safe for tourism. There are so many cases of rape within the country and also within the popular major destinations of India. This is concerning because a lot of the travelers are women, and they feel insecure and unsafe. And it's not only physical harassment that they face, there's a lot of scamming as well involved within India, especially regarding the purchase of ornaments, which have been, they sell fake ornaments presenting them as a real one. And the extortion has been on a rise, and this concern has been raised by several social media influencers as well, because they are the ones highlighting and also propagating India as a tourist destination. But with regards to increased human rights violation, with regards to rise of physical tortures, with regards to rise of extortion, India has repeatedly, several analysts have quoted India as an unsafe country for tourism purposes. All
right, Maheen, also let's, talk a little, not a little bit, but I'd like to also highlight Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir in this discussion, because the APHC, in a meeting while condemning the Narendra Modi-led fascist Indian government's policies towards the region, has also asked the world governments to take cognizance of this repeatedly and continuous degradation of political and human rights situation in the Indian-held valley. My first question, I've already asked this to you, but I'd like to reiterate this for all those viewers who haven't heard it so far. Why is the IIOJK issue lingering for so many decades?
I think there isn't any other pertinent question than this, because there's so many conflicts that are lingering. We have seen that in the world, and Jammu and Kashmir issue has been on the US, one of the oldest agenda on the UN Security Council agendas. It has been lingering so far because of India's stubbornness to accept any form of mediation. India considers this now after 2019 as a bilateral matter, and it has restricted any involvement of external mediators to resolve this tension. We have Pakistan. India actually is the first one to take the issue to the United Nations. Followingly, after 2019, the issue has been discussed in the United Nations Assembly almost 3 to 4 times. And India's stubbornness, its hardening of position on the dispute, and its disregard of human rights violation within the region is one of the major issues that the issue has been lingering so far.
Maheen, also a lot of pro-freedom organizations have been talking about this same situation in the Indian held valley, and they say that the fact that Indian legally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is a flashpoint between two countries that are nuclear states, and also the fact that the whole issue is causing regional instability. They call the Indian held valley as a nuclear flashpoint. Do you feel something needs to be done by international bodies, by the countries in the West that matter, by the close allies of India before it's way too late, before the region goes to a point of no return?
We have seen how India acted in February 2019. Most of the actions taken by the BJP government are to galvanize its vote bank. And I have been saying that in previous shows as well, and this is one of the major reasons why India incites the issue of Kashmir dispute, Muslims and minorities, and fanning Hindutva ideology within the country. And with Kashmir being a nuclear flashpoint, we have seen a rise in nuclear rhetoric within the world. And there's also a disregard of the arms control, a disarmament regime. We have seen that weakening, and with the rise of conflicts within the all over the world, we have seen that the nuclear aspect or nuclear threats are on the rise. This is very much concerning because Pakistan and India have seen wars as well as conflicts within the region, and any miscalculation or inadvertent escalation can result in a nuclear crisis, which is very much concerning at this point because the two countries are not even in conversation. So any of such matter will be very difficult to resolve.
When you look at the Narendra Modi's militaristic designs vis-a-vis illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and the way he has been flouting human rights and other rights in the Hill Valley, do you feel organizations such as the ICC or the ICJ could intervene?
We have not seen them intervening. We have taken the matter to United Nations, and this is what. And if India abides by the recommendations of the United Nations to have plebiscite within the region, this is what's the solution of the region. And this is not only Pakistan's recommendation, this is an international body's recommendation that India should follow, and India is not committing to its previous commitments, which is the major reason this is coming up again and again.
Maheen, the people in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir have time and again talked about the hegemonic designs of specifically the Narendra Modi-led government, but also India in general vis-a-vis the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and also the silence of the world when it comes to this very, very important issue that is there in the United Nations through various resolutions that have been passed since decades. Now, when the people are frustrated in the Indian Hill Valley, what options, in your point of view, could they have, would they have, in order to move forward and get their right to self-determination?
Most important aspect is that they have to keep the resistance alive. This is one of the key aspects, and we have seen them practice this again and again. In the right to self-determination is granted to them by the UN Charter, and we have seen them exercise their resistance against the BJP government in the election recently that took place. Well, we have seen that as a major repercussion of what Modi government, especially after Article 370 and 35A, has been doing. We saw the voter turnout was 60%. India is claiming that as a restoration of democracy in the region, but the people of Kashmir are saying that this is their representation of anger and frustration at Modi. Like 60% of the people are unhappy with the situation, and that's what they want to project. BJP government and Modi has been presenting normalcy or the facade of normalcy in the region, but if you talk to international interlocutors or if you talk to people from Kashmir, they present a completely different picture. In this regard, it is very important for international observers and international human rights activists to go into the region and make these observations firsthand, but we have seen India stop this several times.
All right. Now, I mean, we see what is happening in the Indian Hill Valley, but we also see what is happening in India, specifically when it comes to the minorities, and on top of the list comes the Muslims. Now, when it comes to Muslims, there are so many factors that bind together or are bound together as far as the human rights issues are concerned, or their basic rights are concerned. And one thing that we are seeing of late is a desecration of the mosque. Began with the Babri Mosque way back in '92, and now we are seeing another mosque, the Atala Mosque in Jaunpur in Uttar Pradesh. That is also, people are pushing it for it to be desecrated, and as they say that there was a temple in its place, and that it is for that reason that it has to be desecrated. Now, administration of this mosque has filed an appeal against the district court's ruling, which claims that the mosque was built on the site of the ancient Atla Devi temple. What will happen as far as the judiciary is concerned? Do you feel they will be judicious in their decision as far as the desecration of the mosque and other mosques is concerned?
This is a very important concern because India has been represented as a secular country who respects the rights of all religions and minorities. The rhetoric of anti-Muslims, especially against mosques, rose after the recent election. We have seen that India has taken political measures where different members of parliament have stated that the mosques will be demolished, and then there are legal measures against demolishing these mosques. Economically, the Waqf bill talks about the corruption that is going on. Socially, we have seen that mob psychology within the Hindutva ideology led by Bajrang and RSS. All of these aspects have highlighted that this is a very systematic process that India is taking. And with regards to your question, this is a very systematic process with the support of government. So justice remains to be seen if they would be judicious or not. But these concerns highlight major violation of human rights within India.
You know, the fact is that Pakistan has time and again highlighted this on different fora, the disregard of basic human rights to the minorities in India, and specifically also to the Muslim majority in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Now, last month also our Foreign Office expressed grave concerns on because India, when it comes to issues, does not relegate to just India alone. We've got the terrorism that India, whether it be across the borders or transnational terrorism, India has been involved in that, when we've seen proofs by the Canadian government, by the US government, by the governments as well, and of course Pakistan. Our Foreign Office last month expresses grave concern over India's alleged support for terror groups operating in the region. The spokesperson reiterated Pakistan's position that these groups receive backing, financial backing from India. What should be the global responsibility, at least when it comes to terrorist incidents?
Terrorism has been very concerning in this region and also globally. We have seen that, especially in Pakistan, there is a rise of targeting different Chinese groups within Pakistan. The region of, the aspect of India funding, sponsoring, supporting different organizations such as BLA and TTP is very concerning, and there are the statement coming out from Ministry of Foreign Affairs is backed by a very strong evidence. Several of the ministries spokesperson have spoken on this, and even former foreign ministers also spoken on this aspect, that there is irrefutable evidence that India has been sponsoring these activities. But in regards to this, it's not only India, but with regards to this, it's very important to notice that Afghanistan is also part of the problem. Afghanistan is hosting and providing safe havens to these entities, and these are Pakistan's red lines, and we have repeatedly asked Afghanistan on eliminating these groups, although Afghanistan has stated that it will mediate talks between TTP and Pakistan, but this comes in stark contrast with it saying that they do not host these organizations.
All right. Now, a report also is released by our Federal Minister for Communications earlier last month that is entitled Hybrid War Against Pakistan, which details a multi-front approach by India, including disinformation, terrorism support, global reputation damage, which is all aiming to destabilize Pakistan. A, what does India stand to gain by destabilizing Pakistan? B, do such reports also expose India's real face?
We have seen India's face being exposed on several occasions. Recently with the US and Canada, with the Indian Chronicles, all of these aspects highlight what kind of strategies and tactics India is using to manipulate its observers. Just with the badge of economic power in largest democracy, India is not fooling anybody, because a lot of different institutions have this realization. A lot of countries, a lot of diplomats have this realization what India is doing and its human rights violation. What India tries to gain from this is it's trying to build itself as a regional hegemon and an important player in global affairs. But we have seen that repeatedly, even during G20. We have seen that with the Ukraine crisis, that India has not lived up to the mark of actually being even being a mediator or taking up a responsibility of resolving global tensions. So this highlights that India is not ready to hold such a position, such a prominent position within the world that it's aiming for.
All right, Maheen, what should Pakistan's strategy be now? I mean, looking at all that is happening and all that has happened and all that could happen or would happen, And how has Pakistan's strategy been also in the past to counter such tactics?
We have been certain in our case that Pakistan wishes to have a dialogue with India and resolve its tensions diplomatically through dialogue. But India has always disregarded that. We have recently hosted the Indian External Affairs Minister, and this time the environment was very calm as compared to the last time.
At the SCO?
Yes, at the SCO as compared to the last time when our foreign minister visited India. We can see that there is, we hoped that there would be some sort of legacy with the Modi government, with its probably last term, that India would inch towards Pakistan and have some sort of bilateral relations. For this purpose, we need interlocutors who are respectful towards Pakistan's wishes, towards Pakistan's demands, and truly hope to have a meaningful dialogue with Pakistan. In this regard, Pakistan would need to practice strategic patience in terms of dealing with India, because the trajectory India is going on, the issues or the status that India is aiming for, India would completely disregard Pakistan's position. So in this regard, there should be no urgency to address India issue.
All right. Also, when it comes to whatever is happening in India, even Al Jazeera or the BBC have taken out reports on Narendra Modi, on what is happening in India. You remember the whole incident that happened when BBC took out a whole documentary on Narendra Modi, and then the backlash that it received in India. But do such revelations have any impact whatsoever on India's repute?
In interpersonal relations with different diplomats, we have seen that in a lot of them realizing India's true face, India's atrocities that it's committing. Although different people assume Modi to be a popular leader, but its strategies, its human rights violations, its disregard of various minorities is very evidently being highlighted to different people in different countries. This has become really concerning because without them realizing this, the issue that with the Modi government, tackling the matter of India would be really concerning.
All right. Thank you very much, Maheen, Shafeeq, to have joined us, to have discussed what India has been doing in its own country, in a disputed region of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, in Pakistan and in other countries across the world. I think I really feel at the end of this discussion that that the fact that the world is still silent after whatever India has done is, what can I say? It raises a lot of questions as to the legality of international human rights and their applications. Thank you very much, Maheen, Shafeeq, to have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Maheen, Shafeeq discussing India's role within its country as far as the minorities is concerned, in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, in Pakistan and other countries across the world, and their role mainly has not been positive at all. In fact, quite the opposite. We'll be back after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom, and our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns climate change and different issues concerning climate change that have cropped up on the international arena. The first, of course, is that a very important case is being played out since last week and also all this week at the International Court of Justice, otherwise known as the ICJ. You know that it adjudicates disputes between nations and issues on legal issues. In this case, the judges have been asked by the UN to weigh in on what exactly international law requires states to do about climate change and what should be the consequences for states that harm climate through actions or omissions. Representatives from more than 100 countries and organizations are appearing in the court, hoping to influence some kind of opinion. At the same time, our country, Pakistan, has also introduced the country's first carbon market policy. That is the step in the right direction, as we also discussed that at COP29 when the Pakistan delegation was there as well. Described as a significant step towards Green Pakistan, the policy has been launched during COP29 in Baku. I just told you that, with the goal of achieving climate targets and promoting green investments. The policy also aims to foster investment in the energy, in the agriculture and the forestry sectors. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Ejaz Ahmed Saab. He's an environmentalist. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Mome Saleem, who's an environmentalist herself. Thank you very much, Mome, to have joined us after a very, very long hiatus. I hope the next time we meet, it won't be after that long. But thank you very much, nevertheless, to have joined us. We'll begin with Dr. Ejaz. Dr. Ejaz, I just talked about this most important case that is being, played out at The Hague since last week and also all of this week, in which, the judges have been asked by the UN to weigh in on what exactly international law requires states to do about climate change. What should be the consequences for states that harm the climate through actions or omissions? And this testimony is going to continue till the 13th of December. And of course, we can view that on the UN website, or anybody amongst you who wants to view that as well. It's very interesting, this whole development. How important do you view this landmark case from a climate activist's viewpoint?
Yeah, I think it is a very important case in a sense that it will help in educating people. I think this is the most crucial and significant component because most of the time, the governments and especially the developed countries, they don't realize the issues to that level. And this case was actually I think went into the court through Vanuatu, which are facing problems, sea water rise, and the life on the island is at risk. So I think this is going to create a realization among those countries who are, the major root causes who are creating those issues, and globally it is being affected. It's just like, like in Pakistan, we are not contributing to that level in the global emissions, but we are, like among top 10 countries who are suffering. Similarly, there are many other countries. Small island countries are, like more vulnerable in a sense that the area, the level of concern is much higher over there. So I personally, I feel that this is a good advocacy issue in a sense, like at the global level, will be in a position to actually bring all the data, all the information, and especially, like the information coming from other countries. UN is, facilitating this process.
More than
also.
100 countries are participating in it. That is huge.
So that will actually bring a lot of information and generate a lot of data as well. But as you know, like UN and those issues, even political issues related to Kashmir or Palestine, etc., they went into
ICJ.
UN and nothing happened. But we expect that it will help in advocacy and lobbying.
All right, Mome, this whole lobbying that is happening as far as the ICJ is concerned, it didn't start, with government officials. It started with a group of young law students from Pacific Island countries who began all this campaign way back in 2019. They said, we are taking the world's biggest problem to the world's highest court. And today we are 2024. And of course, this case is now in the ICJ. The students have stressed the concept of climate justice and have sought to focus attention on the voice of those most affected by global warming. And there it is because of their advocacy that now more than 100 countries are at the ICJ pleading for climate justice. How important is the role of global youth from all the countries, whether it be from Vanuatu or whether it be from Pakistan, to highlight climate-related issues?
Thank you very much. And I think, Omar, this is a very important question. Given the current demographic, landscape of the globe, we see that there are 1.2 billion young people, which is only 16% of the world's population. But if you look at South, where mostly the climate impacts are, we see 63.9% are young people. So it clearly means that these are the young people who have inherited this world from us. And climate justice need to prevail. And young people are looking, going to COPs and experiencing this. They're seeing that these are mostly words. And in the words of Greta or others, we have seen that global leaders aren't doing enough. So it's important that, young people are there, but of course they need opportunities. And when we talk about young people from South, not all of them have enough education, enough skills, but what they have is the experience, what they have faced. We see in Pakistan in 2022 and even before, every now and then, whenever we have floods, they are recurrent, but then they are increasing in intensity. So these young people really have things to share, which really shows how devastating the impacts of climate change are, because they are the ones who will be entering their future lives. And if they do not have anything to look up to, of course this is the time that they need to kind of jolt the world with their activism by understanding what the problems are, and then also, as Dr. Ejaz said, spreading awareness. So this might be one attempt to spread awareness, because we know that international courts and etc., I mean, they do help in kind of raising that kind of the issues to that level where awareness is generated. So I think that's a very big step. And we at last time when I went to COP29, I took delegation of young people, and that was very, very powerful. These young people did have a press conference from the UNFCCC platform, really advocating and asking for climate justice. So I think it's very important that we empower them, we give them skills, we give them knowledge so that they can plead their case at international level.
Wonderful. Stay online with us, Mome. Dr. Ejaz, the world needs to remove many millions of tons of carbon dioxide from the air to meaningfully limit global warming. Now, you can take some kind of biomass, heat it to a high temperatures while limiting its access to oxygen, and get blowchar, which is a charcoal-like product that has huge potential to store carbon. Is that a possibility to kind of use it for maximum, benefit?
Yeah, biochar is something which is being used actually to store your carbon, in a sense that you can utilize it for maybe at later stages. And these bio resources, they I think like as a source of carbon capturing, this is a good initiative, and this is being actually utilized in different countries. In Pakistan, unfortunately, the knowledge, the technology is not like available to that level. So we are not practicing this kind of technological benefit. But I think this is a good resource which we can actually utilize.
But do you feel a more generic or more wide distribution of that could happen in the long run, or are there some lacunas there?
Well, it looks like a simple technology, but I think the issue is storage. It seems like because what you do is normally the resources are converted into coal, and then that coal is more environmental friendly, and that is available for a longer period of time, which is like it's like your future bank account. Where you can actually restore some of the these resources and then use it when you need it.
All right. Coming to you, Mome, a very important development as far as Pakistan is concerned. Yesterday, Pakistan introduced the country's first carbon market policy, which is described as a significant development as far as green Pakistan is concerned. We all know it was launched during COP29 in Baku, where you yourself said were present with the goal of achieving climate targets and promoting green investment. The policy also aims to foster investments in the energy sector, in the agriculture sector, and the forestry sector. And of course, they talked about the important role of the SIFC as far as this is concerned. When they also talked about the carbon markets, and I'm sure you must have discussed that with Rumina and with others who were at COP29 from the Pakistan delegation. The statement says that through these carbon markets, businesses will be encouraged to adopt eco-friendly technologies and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And global investors and organizations have also been asked to join Pakistan as far as Pakistan's carbon market is concerned. What's your comment on all of this? How do you see this development?
Indeed, it's a very forward-looking step. And I think with this, the government is showing that they are ready to kind of invest in green markets and really move forward. But if we unbundle this and see how it is in Pakistan at this point in time, because in NDCs, of course, we are talking about 50% reduction, out of which we are saying that 15% of reduction will be conditional. But the question that begs to be asked is whether our markets are ready, whether our labor is ready, whether we are able to transform this to the benefits, the social benefits. So basically, if you look at the landscape at this point in time, we have, of course, piecemeal approach when it comes to introducing green markets. Talk about EV vehicles, which is, of course, adaptation, but then, of course, it opens up a market too. Talk about solar, talk about, of course, it's not only about, introducing new sectors, but it's also about greening the existing sectors. So how forward-looking are we on that? And it's not only the government who has to, but of course the private sector and other actors have to jump in. So if we unbundle this whole thing at this point in time, I think, yes, really you can say there are answers which different actors can do. But when we talk about the compliance market, which is driven by the policies, our sectors, our construction, our textile, are they ready? Yes, I know there are transformations, there are things happening, but it's all also about how much investment are we doing in innovation? Is it homegrown innovation that we are trying to, or is it the expensive model or expensive way that we are going towards? And I think here I'll again bring in young people, because I think it's very important with 68% of young people in the country that you invest in their skilling, their education. And unfortunately, at this point in time, we have 26.2 million young people out of school, and 60% of them are adolescents, which mean they are in the age of 10 to 16. So I mean, with such a situation, how we are looking at future markets unfolding. I'll just relate an example here, Omar. Basically, under the current portfolio, wherever I'm working, we were able to introduce green skills at a non-formal education center. And you'll be surprised to know that I was thinking this is just going to fly and people are going to adopt it and they'll go into, because the whole model was skilling to employability. But many of the girls actually went for conventional skilling, because of course there are cultural barriers that they cannot break. But at the same time, of course, the market is not ready. So many of the young boys also adopted or adhered to what the kind of skills, the kind of traits that we offered. So they went towards very conventional ones. So yes, maybe we are able to give those skills, but are the markets ready? So we have to actually look at it from different perspectives and really invest in young people, invest partnership with private sector, and then different actors. And this also includes our different ministries, for example, education ministry, your TVET sector. So we really have to strengthen our landscape, and that needs a lot of investment, and not just bring in whatever happened at COP. So what kind of investments do we have at this point in time? Because Pakistan alone cannot, fight this fight. We have to have some kind of international cooperation, some kind of international backing, and we have seen that what kind of, even when we talk about climate finances, I don't think developed world is that serious. So I'm just trying to kind of say here that, for us to really move forward, or really implement this carbon-based market, of course, policy, we will have to kind of invest in our landscape, and young people are the key.
All right, Dr. Ejaz, what's your take on this?
Well, I think this is very important in a sense that the policy is there and we are forward-looking initiative. But we normally where we fail is actually implementation. What kind of capacity do we have in order to develop certain mechanism for that? Policy should support that kind of mechanism. Similarly, I think one of the important aspect in carbon trade is MRV, which is basically monitoring and verification kind of mechanism, that you don't sell the same carbon, same products to different partners or different buyers. Similarly, engagement with the provincial governments after this 18th Amendment. I think the role of provincial governments have become more important, because all the forest, all the associated, like mechanism industry, etc., is part of their jurisdiction, and they need to, like build the capacity. We actually failed to get benefit from clean development mechanism, which was wonderful initiative globally. India, China, Brazil, they actually earned a lot of resources, money from those initiatives, but we were unable to build our own capacity. And ultimately, we could actually just get maybe, like just a dozen projects as compared to maybe a few thousand in other countries. So I think these are important aspects to look for what kind of capacity is required in order to implement this policy, and how we can build that capacity, which is very important in order to get benefit.
I think capacity building is a major advantage
Exactly.
to any outlining any such project that the government brings forward. I think capacity building is one of the bases, one of the solid foundations as far as any good project is concerned. Mome, Pakistan's delegation to COP29, you were there, you met with them, you interacted with them as well. Unveiled the National Climate Finance Strategy in Baku as well. How do you view the different paradigms of this finance strategy? How important is it in this day and age, with Pakistan being one of the most susceptible countries as far as the effects of climate change is concerned?
Sorry, yeah. I think, Omar, as we spoke about the previous policy, I think this is also important. And I think in Pakistan, it's very, I think last 2 years have been very important when it comes to climate friendly policies and forward-looking policies with climate adaptation plan coming in place. And I think this actually goes hand in hand with that. When we talk about National Climate Finance Strategy, we are really showing to the world as to what are the needs at this point in time of Pakistan. And we know that there is a shortfall when we talk about climate resilient development, or when we talk about the needs that we have to fulfill of people when it comes to climate impact. So I think that given that, yes, putting your house in order is important, and I think the government has really done a great job in order to kind of really have this three-pronged approach when it comes to NCFS. And I think they have spelled out very well how they would like to go ahead, what this roadmap would be. It has to be a whole of government strategy, which it really spells out, because in none of, climate change is not one sector problem. It's not environment ministry's problem. So I think the World Bank has really helped help the government draft this. And I think the second approach that they mentioned is really mobilization and diversification of the domestic revenue and investments, which is also very important. And I think the third one I really like myself as well, because this is now the time, and also under SDGs also we talk about expansion of partnerships, and here they really talk about private sector. So I think that third is my personal favorite, because I think we have to come out of this boundary and this silo approach, and private sector, public sector, youth. So it has to be public, private, youth partnership that we have to take forward. So I think this strategy does spell that out, and I hope that this is going to be able to come up with a plan where we are able to implement it in full spirit.
Thank you so very much, Mome Saleem, to have joined us and to have discussed climate change and the different issues concerning it, and of course the policy that Pakistan is bringing forward as far as that is concerned. Thank you so much to have joined us. Coming back to you, last question to you, Dr. I'll come back to ICJ, wherein a representative from the US on Wednesday talked about the climate crisis as being one of the greatest challenges the humanity has ever faced. Margaret L. Taylor, who is a US representative, also argued that existing UN systems to address climate change were sufficient, despite criticism that it had failed to stop the dangerous rise in global temperatures. She talked about the Paris Agreement at its core, and said that it's the only international regime specifically designed by states to address climate change. What needs to be done, Dr. Ejaz, to make the UN system more effective to tackle climate change?
Oh, it's not $1 million, it's $1 billion question actually. I think the overall objectives of UN were different than like what has been happening over a period of time because of the geopolitical and this situation. And as far as like this statement is concerned, the president-elect actually does not buy in this statement that UN is doing.
There's a huge concern from the global community as far as the Paris Agreement is concerned.
Right. So they have dissociated themselves from Paris Agreement, then they came back, and then again now, if you see the talk of President Trump, he says that this is not an issue. I mean, climate is not an issue. It's the armed proliferation and few other things which are more issue. Immigration is more bigger issue for them. So I think this is a big challenge. Next few years are going to be a big challenge for the UNFCCC and also for the climate change related initiatives, because America is the biggest, one of the biggest contributor, and they have resources, and then they have their political, say, and a lot of countries. There still, I think there was some country which actually is also, started talking about coming out of the Paris Agreement. So they were influenced actually.
There's a lot of influence, Dr. Ejaz. The fact is that there's a lot of question marks, a lot of reservations by the world as to what's going to happen post the end of January, when the president-elect will in fact become president of the United States, and how important will be the US commitment towards climate change or towards the Paris Agreement after that. That is something that we will see. But at this moment, as we speak, the ICJ is playing a very important role with all of these countries together and trying to look for a mechanism that could be evolved in order to make climate change more implementable proposal.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ejaz, for joining us. We're a bit short of time. We would have loved to discuss a bit more with you.
Thank you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. See you inshallah tomorrow with new stories, segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.